This is the City of Durant restaurant tax for tourism, parks and recreation. It does have the referendum language in here. On section 3 is the referendum language, 60% vote. And it's up to 3% on gross proceeds from sales, restaurant or business. So that is the explanation of the bill. Are there any questions? Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Next is House Bill 4119. This is a local tax on hotels, motels, and restaurants. For Morton, Mississippi, the rate on the hotel is 3%, 2% on the restaurant. And there is a referendum in the bill with 60% in favor in order to pass. Are there any questions on the bill? Yes, Senator Sparks for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill sponsor is Representative Holloway. Does he represent Morton?
I don't know if he does or not. I don't think he does.
Is it common that we have local and private sponsored by somebody who does not represent the municipality?
I guess anybody can file a bill. I see the senator that represents that area, and I'll defer to him, Senator McCon. There's a local and private from Morton, Mississippi, or a hotel and restaurant tax. You didn't. This is a House bill. Holloway 27th has Scott County.
Okay, I was just curious if he represented Morton. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, it did. Would you like to? Okay. See? Are there any further questions on the bill? Any discussion or motion? Motion is title sufficient to pass. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Those have it. Bill fails. Next, we have Senate nomination number 24. Mr. Bill Cork, you would please come to the podium. Thank you, Mr. Cork. If you would please, for the members that have not met you, please tell them a little bit about your background and your experience.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's good to be back in this committee room again. Seems like it was just yesterday we were doing multi-billion-dollar deals together, so it's good to be back. My name is Bill Cork. I'm currently the acting executive director of the Mississippi Development Authority. I came to MDA 3.5 years ago. I started September 1, 2020, in the middle of the pandemic. I came up here from Hancock County Port and Harbor Commission, where I was the chief executive officer there for 4.5 years before I came up here. Prior to that, I spent 10 years in Texas running an industrial development authority, as well as running the local chamber of commerce and a fair and rodeo association. A little bit of everything. I worked in energy, I worked in the environment, I've worked on closing military bases. I got my degree in urban planning and economic development in 1994 after a 4-year tour in the Marine Corps. So I've been working in economic development in one way, shape, or form for almost 30 years, to be 30 years this summer. My wife and I relocated to Mississippi to take the job at Hancock County. My wife, Nina, of 40 years, is with me today. We have 4 children and 6 grandchildren. And we are delighted to be able to sell Mississippi to the rest of the world. So I'd be happy to talk more about my background or more about MDA or whatever you'd like to discuss, Mr. Chairman.
I'd kind of like for you to give the committee, since you've been there a few years and now at the director position, would you give the committee kind of a 5-year perspective of what you think, where MDA is headed? What challenges do you think y'all have? What are some of the opportunities? I know members, everybody wants a deal in their district, and I know that y'all are kind of there to meet the companies and show them according to what their needs are, what's available. I guess, give the committee kind of an overview of where we are in MDA, what the opportunities are, and where you see us kind of going in the next 4 or 5 years.
In 30 seconds or less.
Oh, you can take a little bit longer than that. Go ahead.
Well, when I first came to MDA in September of 2020, I had started in that role, and 30 days later, the governor and I wound up in a meeting in Asheville, North Carolina, with a group of 5 site selection consultant professionals. Obviously, we were just coming out of the pandemic. The governor was just kind of it was his first trip, I believe, since the pandemic started. And the local power companies in Mississippi put together a meeting with him and some of the top site selectors in the United States. It was a very frank workshop for about 4 hours on a Saturday morning, in which the governor had a frank conversation with these site selectors about what their perceptions of Mississippi were and what they thought he needed to tackle in his first term as governor, and also what it was going to take to be a governor that would be distinguished as being sort of top of class for economic development governors in the United States. There were 3 primary things that really hit home. Number one is, without fail, those consultants said that we were spending too much money on projects, which shocked us all. They said we were being used as a mark by site selection consultants in other states to try to bid up the incentive benefits in other states with no real intent to do the business here. So we were seeing a lot of projects go through that we were losing, even though we were throwing a lot of money at the projects. The second thing was, they said, you don't know where you are in the deal. We've had too many deals with you where you don't understand exactly where you are, and that's a function of the lack of the qualifications of the people you're throwing at the project. The third thing that they said was, you don't have enough product in the state. And your tax environment, number 4, was entirely too complicated. So I think you've seen some of the things that have fallen out of that process. The governor took those things seriously. And with your help, we simplified the tax incentive program through the MFLEX program, which, by the way, has attracted over $1.5 billion in new capital investment. We've done $100 million in tax credits. We've done over 40 projects using that program. We have spent a lot less money out of our ACE and cash funds because you guys got together to address and simplify that tax process. It's now the preferred way we do business. The second thing you all did with the governor was you got together and you figured out we've got to start building product. And you really plussed up the site development grant program. And you know the governor's been committed to that program for the last several years. And what we've seen is the benefits from that. Over almost $80 million has already been deployed of money that you've appropriated. That's leveraged almost $200 million in local match and other sources of funds to improve up to over 30 sites that we have throughout the state now that we're advancing. Every single major project that we've announced in the last 15 months has benefited from this program because we were able to get speed to market. And that product mix is still growing, and we're still advocating for those programs. When it came to the personnel, we had to make some pretty hard and tough choices. And that meant we had to really rethink how we were doing business inside the agency. And it got really difficult because we're in COVID, we're working on weird shifts, people are coming and going. We weren't able to build kind of a team environment. But by the time in the spring of 2021, when all that started to come together, we had to have some hard conversations about whether we had the right players on the field. And we went through a process of trying to re-educate, train, and upskill the workers we had. Some folks came along with that process. Some folks resisted it. Those folks that resisted it are no longer here. We had about 2/3 of our project management team and our international trade team leave the business. We've since refilled those folks. And I think you've seen the success that we've seen over the last couple of years with that new reconstituted team has elevated our game and help to deliver credibility in the market and in the industry. In fact, last year, for the first time ever, the Mississippi Development Authority was ranked one of the top 5 state economic development authorities in the United States by one of our ranking programs. The last thing, which was a hard thing for the governor to hear, was that he asked some very specific questions of these site selectors about what it was going to take to make him the best economic development governor in the United States. And he said, what are the common mistakes other governors make? And he said, the first thing that they said to him was, don't make your lead economic development point of contact with us somebody who doesn't know economic development, typically a political appointee or sort of a patronage type of hire. Because doing that means that we're across the table from somebody who doesn't understand us, and it makes it harder to do business with you. And in a recent survey by Area Development Magazine, one of the top 3 things that site selection consultants ask for when dealing with when trying to locate a site is the ease of being able to deal with the state economic development agency. Because a lot of these projects are big, they're complicated, and the tax issues are very difficult to sort through. So with you and the governor, you and MDA's leadership, we have gone through that transition over the last 3 or 4 years. So where do we go from here? We have now slimmed the organization down. We've got our leadership team in place. We're doing KPIs, key performance indicators, across every segment of our business. We're doing more with less. We're integrating technology. We've rewritten our employee handbook to stop all of the golf outings and the junkets and the paid type of things that have been going on that were really distracting in the agency. We got people focused on their business and committed to win. And so in the next 4 years, we want to take this platform we've got and we want to go win a lot more business for the state of Mississippi. And we're going to do that in partnership with you and the governor's leadership, focusing on winning, because winning is really what matters. At the end of the day, that's what makes the headlines. That's what gets us notoriety. And that's what puts us on the map nationally. And I think you've seen over the last 12 to 24 months, what this transformation that you've done with the governor and with MDA, what this has done to change our profile in the United States. So with that, I will kind of leave it there. Happy to talk about specific programs, but that's kind of the general 30,000 foot view.
Thank you. As far as the product you have available across the state, give us a kind of an update on where we are. I know a lot of this, we talked about every project was speed to market, speed to market, speed to market. Of the inventory of product that you have, how much of it is shovel ready? How much of it is close to shovel ready? And how much of it, we're still working through? Give us kind of a layout of where you see our inventory right now.
So we have 32 sites on our select site program that we've forced, kind of stack ranked and that we've been investing in. There's probably another 20 sites below that are emerging as opportunities. 2 of our best sites just got gobbled up, the one in Marshall County and the one in the Golden Triangle. We're, as well as and Joe Max is working on a new site in the Golden Triangle right now as we speak. He calls it the Cinco Mega Site. Madison County has just been bought out. That closing happened about a week ago. We have got to get additional major mega sites. And right now, the 3 largest candidates for that, frankly, are Meridian, the I-2059 Industrial Park, Hattiesburg's Eagle One mega site, and the Vicksburg port site. Those 3 sites are prime for development, and we've invested a lot of money in those sites, particularly Eagle One and the Vicksburg port site, using the site development grant money that you've all appropriated. We have got to continue to double down on those 2 sites. They're going to be very expensive to get ready, but I promise you, once we get to that threshold, and those are permit-ready sites, they'll be gone as fast as the last ones we had, because there's no sites in the United States anymore. They're very, very hard to come by. So if we can stay on top of this game, we will fill those sites up. In fact, we're already showing those sites to major manufacturers now in anticipation of permit and continued investment. Meridian is going to go any day. I mean, it's loaded up with prospects. We've shown and lost a couple of big projects there, but that community is going to go. Now, what about everywhere else in the state? There's a lot of other sites in the state that need this kind of attention and investment, which is why that $100 million that the governor's asked for is so incredibly important. And they're all at various stages of readiness. whatever you give us, we're going to take the best priorities across those sites. And we're going to try to fit kind of like a Tetris game, the best investments we can make to try to advance the highest return and speed to market on those sites. That geographic distribution is broad. It covers every aspect of the state. And I think, and we briefed that to the Senate leadership and the House leadership on what we're trying to do there. So I think everybody has a very transparent and open understanding of where we're headed with those projects once that money is appropriated.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answers. I'm going to open up to any questions from the committee. Any committee members have any questions? Nominee Senator Blackman for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Court, we've gotten along in all our interactions, but I have to ask this since it's in the report. There was a report from the state personnel director regarding your workplace. Can you just explain that to committee and explain why they came to the conclusion that you weren't cooperative in that investigation?
Yes, in 2020 and 2021, we had a number of employees as we were going through the process of reorganizing and reforming the organization that filed a series of complaints about the workplace. It was a very tough time. As some of you may recall, we went through an executive director during that period. We had an interim executive director appointed, and we were also trying to reform the agency along the lines that I was just describing. So we had a small cadre of employees that didn't like what was happening. They were interviewed very transparently. In fact, I waived all my rights to have any of this stuff protected. I wanted you to see everything that we saw. But at the end of the day, the state personnel board leadership found that I had not done anything illegal, but I was a tough boss. And some people find that kind of tough and directedness to be a little hostile. None of it was personally directed at anyone, but when you're trying to put together a winning team, you just don't settle for second place. And some people just had a very difficult time rising to that challenge. I will tell you that was 3 years ago. And one of the things that the state personnel board executive director prognosticated on was that as long as I was at the agency, I would propose a legal threat to the workforce. Since that period of time has happened, there hasn't been any problems. In fact, we've hired a bunch of very well qualified people, reorganized the agency, slimmed it down, got it more efficient. And we've had the best winning record in the history of the state of Mississippi. So if that takes a little hostility to get that done, that's what's going to happen. I don't apologize for anything I've done because I didn't do anything wrong. And I didn't cooperate with the investigation because I didn't do anything wrong. And that's exactly what that investigation found.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your candor.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? I think you've been handed a list of support letters. I've gotten support letters mailed to me from economic developers and businesses from the north to the south and the east to the west in support of your nomination. And I can speak to the last couple of years dealing with you on several of these economic development projects. Your department has been very available, patient, explaining a lot of the work that you've been working on for several years and trying to disseminate and explain that to us in a matter of a couple of days to prepare for a special session. I understand, confidentiality and not being able to talk about some of the projects that y'all are working on. I have found that you and your group has always been very available and direct and gives answers to us as we ask them. And I appreciate what the work y'all done over the past 12, 15 months and the projects we worked on. So is there any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, for a motion. Motion is we do advise and consent on nomination. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you. Members of the committee, thank you. Look forward to it.
Next, I'll skip Mr. Soames and come back to him. Next, we have Dr. Bill Ashley from Madison, Mississippi, Senate nomination number 97, Executive Director of Mississippi Department of Employment Security. You would please. Thank you, Dr. Ashley, for being here. If you don't mind, while everybody looks at the peer report, if you would please give us an introduction to yourself and give us a little background. Can you make sure that green light is on and
Good morning, good morning, Chairman and Committee. About me, I've spent the better part of the past 3 years at the Mississippi Development Authority since June of 2020 as the Director of Business Research, Workforce, and Energy, where my team and I supported economic development projects. This was during an historic time period for the agency and the state of Mississippi, with 3 of the largest announced economic development projects in the history of the state. Prior to MDA, I was president of Shelton State Community College in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, for 3 academic years. During that time, the college had significant programs that served Mercedes-Benz, Nucor Steel, Hunt Refining, and B.F. Goodrich. I worked in Mississippi's community colleges for 21 years before moving to Alabama. I was vice president for student affairs at Southwest Mississippi Community College for over 6 years. It is interesting to note that the 5 community college presidents have come from the College of Student Affairs, or Student Affairs Division of Southwest. Morris Holmes, Oliver Young, Steve Bishop currently have all come from the Student Affairs Division at Southwest. I became president of Shelton State, and Brent Gregory is currently president of East Central Community College. I attribute this to the nature of student services work, as you have to work with a diverse group of people, stakeholders, and others. I graduated from Pontotoc High School, class of 1990. My parents were happily married, and our family of 6 had a bifurcated existence, as my mother was from Indianola, Mississippi, in the Delta, and my father was from Ingomar, more precisely Lone Star. We were always between the Delta and the hills with our very large extended family for holidays and visits. I attended Itawamba Community College from 1990 to 1991. I then attended Delta State University, where I graduated in 1995 with a BBA in finance. In 1997, I graduated again from Delta State University with an MBA, and I decided in my early 30s to go back to graduate school, and I earned my PhD in Community College Leadership at Mississippi State. I also learned a graduate certificate in economic development as well. By 45, I graduated with a PhD and ascended into the presidency of a community college. In summary, I've been a community college faculty member. I led an instructional department at Hines Community College, a student services division, and an athletic department at Southwest Mississippi Community College, and I've been a president of a community college. I've worked in the lead state agency for economic development in Mississippi for almost 4 years now, and I've started my 4th week as agency head at MDES. I look forward to putting Mississippians to work and career pathways in high-demand occupations with good wages.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley. I appreciate that information. I'm going to open the floor up to any questions or comments from the committee on nomination. All right. Seeing none, for motion? Motion is we do advise the consent. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Next, Senate nomination number 85. Mr. Bill Soames, if you will, look in the, this is a reappointment. Dr. Soames is a member in Pierre located some potential derogatory information or compliance issues that they wanted to bring to our attention. This was not in the last one that we had on Mr. Soames, but I called Mr. Soames and talked to him, and he is aware that his bank has no affiliation with the Mississippi Business Finance Corporation, and they do not conduct any business with it. And that was what the peer wanted to notate for us, that his bank should not have any business with the Mississippi Business Finance Corporation, and they don't. And he says he gave that opportunity up to be on the board. So that was the only concern they had, and we rectified that, and so there should not be a problem with this reappointment. Are there any questions on this nomination? Seeing none for a motion. Sure.
That we do advise and consent.
All right, motion is we do advise and consent. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Yeah, let me say something to Bill real quick and then I'll be out of here. I'll meet you in the office.